Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm here with Jimmy Clare. He is a motivational speaker, has been doing a lot of really good stuff. I just admire his gutsiness and just going after things. We love hearing about that. And he also he's an autism advocate. As somebody with autism, he shares a lot of just inspirational messages with people, and excited to just have him on the show. Thanks for coming, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we learn to love ourselves not because of who we are not, but that we love the things that make us us. This is something I've really tried to learn and appreciate. It's like sometimes I'll get so scatterbrained. It's like, but it's the fact that I can be so scatterbrained that I can bounce around different topics and different focuses. Jimmy, what are some things that have helped you to love you for you with autism, everything like that, with everything?
I think what has helped me is just having people who support me. Uh, I mean, by support me, they support my dreams. Uh, they like me for who I am. They don't want to change me. And like my family, my friends, my extended family. I mean, I guess I could just lump them all in family, but I'm just gonna go with I'm just gonna go with it. And uh, but just having all my best friends, and I call them all my best friends because I have a close niche of people who I consider my best friends. And I always I always say I'd rather have a close group of best friends than having uh, every single person as a friend, uh, because then they know everything about me. They they know when I catch up with them, like every once in a while, they know I'm still they're a big part of my life. It just everything, life happens, and it's not like, oh, I want to avoid them or anything. It just life happens and everything else.
Yeah, you appeared on another podcast and talked about some people that bullied you in school and how they came back and were like, "Hey, let's be friends. Let's restart this." I think there is a place for accepting such a hand of friendship, and you already went to that podcast about why you didn't ultimately take that. And I think a lot of it just comes down to this, like, we don't really know how much time we have on this earth, and the people that we surround ourselves with are going to influence how far we're able to reach. Was there anything else there? And what would you say to somebody that is getting like heavily bullied or targeted right now because of some part of them that makes them like unique?
Uh, don't listen to them. Uh, don't uh, don't listen to them. Don't uh, report them to principals, teachers, bosses, HR if you're in business, etc. I mean, if you're like in what whatever kind of place HR is in, I don't know if it applies to every single type of business, uh, but report them to whoever, management, managers, etc. Bullying shouldn't exist anymore. Uh, Unfortunately, people do it through many different types of mediums, social media, because it's easy to hide behind a computer screen. Uh, but the bullies that I dealt with, it was in person, and I didn't take that person up on their offer to be friends. And like we might like nod heads at each other just to say, "Hey, we're cool," but I mean, like, cool. Yeah, we're gonna hang out at the school. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about that. We might have a similar conversation of like, oh, this class absolutely sucks or something like that. And when I was in high school, but it was nothing further than that.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you diving more into that, Jimmy. It makes you think of something I heard reading from the book. It was like The Wealth of Connection. And it's by a guy I met at Podfest back in May 2022. And the guy talked about there's like 2 hour friends, there's 2 week friends, there's 2 day friends. So like the 2 hour friend is like you spend time around them every couple weeks for a couple hours, and you're like, dude, that's great, that's awesome. And then there's like the 2 day friends where it's like you have them at your house and you have a great time and you just absolutely have a ball with each other for 2 days. And it's like, okay, now this is kind of getting old. Then there's like the 2 week friends. It's like you could spend a ton of time with each other and enjoy each other's company and be super great. And you just sort of don't get tired of each other, definitely not as quickly. And you just keep finding things to talk about. I mean, I know for me, there's some people, and I swear we could just start having a great conversation out of nowhere because we've learned a lot together. We've gone through a lot of things. We've had tough conversations before. And so it's sort of like a great band. It's like you have that guy and he always rocks it and you're like, all right, play the drums. And then you just do the guitar and it's rocking. Then there's other people where it's like, dude, I think if we try to talk for more than half an hour, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. We can talk. But I don't know. It's really interesting. And then there's those other people, like you said, it's like, leave me alone. Like, this was fun while it lasted, or maybe it wasn't fun. This is awful. And there's a reason why I have left you behind is because, I've learned things about myself. Whatever I learned from you, now I can do better things. So I think some of it's that. But yeah, I just admire what you're doing, Jimmy, of as far as like reaching out to people. What are some of the things that you just learned about your business, crazy fitness guy?
Where do I start? So, almost been in business for 6 years. I've learned quite a bit. Uh, well, thing I've learned is not to jump on the bandwagon like everyone else has. Because when I first started, everybody said, go on WordPress. That was the first big mistake I ever made. And here's why. One plugin doesn't work with one plugin. This plugin doesn't work with that plugin. This developer's a ripoff and he's a tool, shouldn't even be in business anymore. And I'll get to that in a few seconds. And then there's hosting companies that just plain outright suck. And here's why. There's there's some hosting companies, not going to name any names, but some of them either charge uh, by the amount of stuff that you have on your website, some by pages, images, etc., or uh, they charge by the number of page views, which I thought is like, well, either way, it sounds extortion either way, and uh, I don't like that. And because, like, a page view is like, well, I mean, a page view is basically a visitor coming to your website, reading your content. And with a view like that, you just want to tell them, say, please don't come to my website because I'm going to get charged up the yin yang for this. And now back to the part where uh, about some developers well, a developer who ripped me off, actually two of them. One of them was a social media kind of posting plugin, and this guy had no refund policy. He had uh, he had a what else? Oh, his tool almost got me banned from social media, and because instead of posting one single post, like every other day or every day at a different time with different text, it basically blurted out like 10 posts within a second. I'm like, I didn't I don't I don't have a refund policy for my premium podcast, but clearly if my premium podcast didn't work, I would give that person their money back. And but the reason I don't have a refund policy for my premium podcast is because you're not refunding anything. You're not returning anything. It's just audio. It's just there. It either works. I mean, and it's like if somebody doesn't like it, they just don't like it. I was like, I'm only one person. I can't just give everybody single person. Let's say if somebody like let's pretend if 100 people want to get their money back from me. Well, I have to go sit through sending 100 people money back, and it's like I'm only one person. I don't have a group of people. I'm literally in my bedroom hosting. I'm in being a guest on this podcast. So it's like this is where my business lies. There's no storefront. There's no headquarters, so to speak. It's just me. And and then but yeah, so that developer ripped me off, and 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 funny enough, I wrote a 6 paragraph review, bad review, and I event and eventually 1,000 of other people followed too, and now the bad reviews are almost in line, perfectly in line with the good reviews, and so they're going neck and neck, and it's like, oh, because I did that. I mean, I mean, like there was other people who did it before me, but there was like, oh, this developer is bad, and this, but I just capitalized on it and I wrote a bad 6 paragraph. I mean, a really good bad 6 paragraph review. That didn't make any sense, but I'm gonna go with it too. But and
Yeah.
then another thing I've learned uh, is always follow your gut instincts. So, for instance, again, not naming any names, but when before we got on this podcast, I told you about my week last week where I felt like I wasted a boatload of my time. I was writing for what I thought was going to be my next co-author book, and let's just say that person later on tried to bill me for $588, and she said all the and to be fair, I did ask questions ahead of time, and she's that person said all the right things to for me not to think that it was a red flag or anything. So it's not like, oh, I knew that this was a $580 service because thankfully my cousin is in publishing and tell me that the people who do such things is a total scam artist because uh, from what she know, I mean, because she works in publishing, she said like we might take a percentage when the book is all said and done, but we don't say, hey, you have to pay us $5,000 ahead of time. And it's like we don't do that. And it's like and and she's like high up in publishing, so she's not, and she wouldn't lie to me. But so always know your gut instinct. When you feel something is off, run the other direction. Don't fall into a trap. As people like, I get so many scam emails a day, and it's like, here's your Lowe's receipt. When's the last time I went shopping at Lowe's by myself? That would be none. And then sometimes I even got strange ones uh, from different pharmacies, and obviously somebody saw my email address, and luckily they didn't get my new one. I'm keeping that off limits to for everyone. It's like, uh, and my third suggestion is because I have a boatload, but I'm just going to pick the top three. Uh, my third suggestion is uh, when you if you're starting your own podcast, stick to one platform because when you jump from one platform to another platform, your podcast analytics does not go with you like your website analytics goes with you for your website. And unfortunately, that stinks because I jumped twice and I knew that everything we said at zero, but it kind of was like a dagger in the heart for me because like, hey, I had 2,300 downloads. Oh, well, crap, I went back from zero. And it's not fun to look at zero. I mean, if you're first starting out, I'm like, oh, you're excited and you want to know what's coming next. But when your podcast is almost 3 years old and you start back at zero, it's kind of like a sucker punch right in the face for you. I mean, even though that you know you did it and everything, but it still sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but I do appreciate you sharing those different aspects of your journey. I think one thing I'll share really quickly is just like, dude, trust the red flag. Like if the red flag is saying like, hey, this is probably not a good idea. Like I lately I really try to think like a little bit farther in advance. Like what does 80-year-old Dallin think about this? What does 8-year-old Dallin think about this? I promise you that like with some of the things that I was starting to learn about like early 2020 about some of the like selling nutrition packages or whatever. Like that's great for some people, 100%. For me, it makes absolutely zero sense to do that. With all the other creativity that I have, with all the other things that I like to be doing, all the other things that I enjoy doing. 8-year-old Dallin is like, bro, what in the actual heck is that? That's probably what 80-year-old Dallin would say, actually. He has a bigger grasp of language, so you'd say that. 8-year-old Dallin would be like, Dallin, what are you doing? I think that's such a powerful question just in general. If we can ask ourselves that to both sides of ourselves, then we will have a much bigger understanding. And I think that's just a game changer when it comes to a lot of different decisions because those red flags are saying something like, hey, I have tricked somebody before. This isn't my first rodeo. Like what you said about that one website or whatever person that it sounded fantastic. They did such a good job in making it sound super good. But the reason why is because they've gotten away with it before. I think of like Scooby Doo characters and other people. It's like they had this planned out in advance. I talked with Maggie Perotin about this. Is people like the bad guys often have a super elaborate plan, like super elaborate. Like this is going to happen, and then this city is going to be in ruin. This guy's going to save the day. It's going to look like he saved the day. Like what the storyline in Incredibles is. So I would echo what you just said. Is if there's a red flag, then turn around and run. For me, starting this podcast was born from a desire to help more people and reach out to more people that I couldn't reach out to from my college campus. Like I could talk to a lot of people, but you can't match the reach of a podcast. This is reaching people in Taiwan, India, some parts of South America right now, and it'll be listened to years down the road. So it's really important that you just do it for the right reasons. That's so basic, but that's really where success starts, really.
Exactly. And just one more thing about that. Uh, like, for instance, they that 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 developer who who took the money and everything. Uh, I even said it. It was like I want my money back. He's like, and I said I hope they go out of business because the person. And it's funny. Their headquarters is right located in New Jersey, and it's like if you're gonna rip off somebody, you might want to do it somewhere that is not somebody's like pretty much next door to you, 2 hours away. I know New Jersey is a big place, but I said to my parents, like, one day if I ever have enough money, and it's like I'm gonna put the developer out of business because that's one thing I did not like about WordPress is that there's not quality control for plugin developers because there's and I'm not gonna say this about all developers, but I'm gonna say some. They just make a piece of code or an app, and it's like, hey, it works, but then they don't. But then they think that, or some of them just try to make it as a income machine and set it and forget it. And then when you run into a bug, there's like, oh no, it still works. Yeah, and yet they're probably using the updated version, but they're just leaving you with the crappy version that doesn't work at all. And so my point is, uh, yeah, you don't always trust all the developers out there, and yeah, some of them don't have really nice personalities at all. I've dealt with some of them.
Well, they get away with it because you don't have to talk to them. All you have
Yeah,
is what you see, which our eyes can be deceiving all the time. So you do have to trust your gut. You do have to do some research. I mean, that's something I've learned to do with my own podcast is somebody can sound super amazing, A-list, blah blah blah, but then you listen to them and it's like, I don't want this person on my show. And I had to learn that a couple times the hard way, you know. But you learn, you figure that out, and that makes things a lot better for future you down the road when you learn from that stuff.
Well, I had one person who said that they had their own PBS documentary on PBS and everything. So I would decide to go over to PBS website. I'm sure that they probably save all their archives, right? So I did a search on their website, didn't come back with anything. Tried the guy's name, didn't come back with anything. I even Googled it too, and Google's pretty smart. Uh, I mean, smart in a way that it knows keywords and everything, and that still didn't come back with anything. I even Googled the guy's name, still didn't come back with anything. I'm like, hmm. But I can, and like you haven't been found anywhere yet on anything. Like, sure the guy might be nice and everything, and maybe he has a great story, but and it's like I'm not looking for like, oh yeah, if the guy was a great A-list celebrity and everything, then heck yes. But and like, okay, I'm not an A-list celebrity either, but you know, my name shows up in Google. And it's like maybe not very high up, and maybe I'm not a high demand like every single motivational speaker out there, but my name shows up, and it's like I built Crazy Fitness Guy on full transparency because you know what? If I break something, I'm gonna own up to it. If I switch hosting companies, I'll tell you about it. And it's like if I mess something up on my live stream, oh well, it's live.
Oh well, it's live. That's kind of the funny one. It's like, oh yeah, that one we can fix. That one we can fix. That one, oh, it's already done and done. So oh well.
Exactly.
That's fun. That's fun. Yeah. Well, I will say one thing that like endeared me to you immediately, Jimmy, a little bit was like when you were talking about these things you want to do better with your podcast, these things that you're working on, how you are aware of a lot of these different things, and to me that speaks to me about like your passion and your desire to bring this forward and continue to grow. Where do you see your brand and everything being in the next like 4 or 5 years or so?
Oh, I've seen it as Crazy Fitness Guy as paying for itself. I instead of just being its expenses for the year, and I'd be traveling worldwide, speaking on big stages. And by big stages, I don't mean just a big stage. I mean I want to be speaking in like millions and millions of people in person and everything. I'll even do virtual. I mean, and but I'm more. I want to do a lot of in person as well because I mean I love being a guest on podcasts and I also like being a guest on virtual summits. But I like having a big audience. I want to be in front of an audience. I want to see their reactions. I want to see uh, what everybody's thinking. And it's like on a computer screen, if somebody just comment on it on the live stream, it's like great. Okay, cool. And I was like, but that's one person. But if you're in front of thousands or millions or whatever number you want to put out there, uh, you want to know what the reactions are. It's like if somebody's like, oh, you want them to be surprised, or and it's like, or uh, it, it kind of keeps you going and whatnot. And and I also see myself um, hopefully getting another keep co-authoring some more books. Maybe write my own book one day. Uh, and maybe even and getting more sponsorships and whatnot consistently, and versus having to literally I'm might not come out right, but I'm going to say it anyway. Beg and plead for a sponsorship from this company and that company. I want them to come to me. Uh, well, that's the hope. Uh, I mean, I didn't beg and plead the other companies, but uh, let's just say I kind of offer them pretty much the world of my podcast. And but hey, I wanted to two sponsorships, and I like their tools, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
That's cool. Yeah, that's sort of what I see myself doing too. Is there's some companies I've built a very strong patronage to over time. Like, I guess Buzzsprout is one at the podcast hosting and 750 words with all the reflective writing I do through their platform, and there's a lot of others. The Forest app, those are all ones I'd be 100% down to like be a spokesperson for in some way, or just have an affiliate link or whatever. And yeah, I think no, I know this for sure. It's like business is very much spread by word of mouth. Like there's plenty of ways to market things, and marketing is very important, but a lot of the most powerful recommendations are word of mouth. Like I I got texted a podcast not too long ago by a friend who listens to my podcast, and that's a very strong recommendation. That's a lot stronger than if I'm scrolling through Instagram and it's like, hey, we had this person on our show or whatever. This friend reached out to me. He's like, hey, Dallin, I know you're kind of having a rough time right now. And this guy, he lost his ability to like play this instrument that he loved playing. He completely lost that ability. And this is how he responded. So I could have a link to that in the show notes because I thought it was inspiring. But you get to drive that connection further when people are speaking about you word of mouth. That is a very powerful way because it just shows there's that human, authentic, personal thing happening. This isn't like a robotic mastermind system thingamajigger. This is like a personal, beautiful thing.
Yeah, and also just saying, at the top of where I see myself in 5 years, I would also like to be a guest on multiple like TV shows. I mean, not a specific like, I mean, not on an actual TV show like a TV series, but like I would like to be on like a talk show, to be interviewed, and I would also like some uh, my local channels or my local newspapers or magazines to publish an article for me or interview me, etc. It's funny. I I literally went to these two nonprofit companies the other day. I mean, a few weeks ago, and just a few weeks later, they were featured in the local news. And yet I pitched to my local news like multiple different times, and no one gets back to me. No one writes anything about me or anything. And I was like, how's it that these two organizations get the local news? I'm not going to bash my local news or anything, but it's like, do you guys not think that an online business can exist? I mean, Amazon exists, and and they have their warehouses and some storefronts, but here I am 6 years later, and I was like, how more do you want me to be around for you guys to notice me? I was like, do you want me to go around the world? And it's like I've been featured in so many different publications, like uh, the Billboard. I've been featured on the Billboard of New York City Times Square. I've been featured in the Autism Parenting magazine. I think I pitched to Disrupt magazine. I think my stuff is still reviewed to them. I've also been featured in the Mighty. I also been featured in Australia Live TV. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll just do a couple more laps around the world and be featured over there and overseas. And then later on, one day they'll want to interview me. That's hope. That's my hopes.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, 5 years is a lot of time. It's almost very daunting to think that far out because, for me, I know I'll at least be married, that will have happened at that point, and I imagine I'll be doing a lot of other stuff, but I don't really know exactly what I'll be doing, but I do know I will be, embracing curiosity, challenge, and creativity. I'll be learning from those three C's, and I will be doing sharing a lot of love and spreading a lot of love, appearing on podcasts, and hopefully doing some public speaking and such of that nature. But yeah, I admire what you're doing with your life, Jimmy, and what you're learning and what you're sharing with the world. What's some daily wins and some ways that you like yield to the good in your life and that you write the story that you want to write?
Hmm. Well, I try to stay away from the news because it's full of negativity. I use this tool called it's called Refind, and it's like an RSS reader. But what's cool instead of giving you instead of you selecting all the feeds that you want and whatnot, you select all these topics that you're interested in, and delivers you on the free plan. It delivers you 7 links at a time, whether you want it in the morning, afternoon, night, before you go to bed. You can select the time, and I like it because there's so much information on the web and whatnot, and so. And I mean, of course, they have categories for news if you want just the news, but I want anything but the news. I want positivity. I want stuff about podcasting, live streaming, uh, Harry Potter, and I can select stuff like that. Uh, I currently have the premium one. I'm trying to go for the lifetime one, where I don't have to pay anything. And there's and what I really like about it also is that it helps me to stay away from all the negative stuff out there. Like it's not controlled by algorithms at all, and which is nice. Because like people sometimes use social media for news and everything. It's like that's not news. That's just trending, boring crap, and half of the time. Now, if it's about my sports team, then I'm interested in it. But it was like something else, or I mean, or if my or favorite celebrity passed away, or if it's their birthday, that's one thing as well. But I mean, like I don't want to hear about politics this, politics that. It's like I don't like anybody there of in politics. I mean, from either side, I'm just stating, just because I really don't. And I have too many other things on my brain to think about than understanding a bunch of stupidity and of everything. And I've also I read books. Uh, so far, I've only read one book so far this year, and but I'm currently working on my second book, reading my second book. Uh, this The first one I was reading this year was a nonfiction book. I still like fiction because that's how I got into reading. So it will always be close to my heart. So I'm reading a fiction book at the moment just to, because the last two books I've been reading, I read were nonfiction. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read two fiction books just to keep it even a little bit. uh, and I also like to listen. Like I said, I when I get a chance to listen to podcasts, I like to listen to podcasts. Uh, One of my favorite podcasters is Lewis Howes. You maybe have heard of him. And something cool happened a few years ago, maybe a year or two ago. I forget exactly when, but I actually mentioned him on one of my social media posts. And I said, one day I'm going to be a guest on his podcast. And he actually replied to my post. And he said to me, he didn't say, oh, that's not possible, and he didn't say, oh, good luck. He said, I look forward to it. And then I was like, holy crap, this guy's cool. And like, he answered my post, and like, he didn't say anything negative towards it at all. He's like, I look forward to it, and it's like, challenge accepted. And it's like I'm gonna be so well known that he's gonna have me on his show, and that's not just my goal or anything, but uh, last year actually, I was on the. Are you familiar with the show Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Well, I was a guest on their podcast, and I got to meet Janet Varney and Dante Bosco, and Dante played Zuko on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I think he's played General Iroh uh, on Legend of Korra, and Janet Varney played Korra. I mean, voiced Korra on Legend of Korra. So I got to meet two celebrities in one day, and it was like, holy crap! And it was like I didn't. It felt so awesome. It was like, oh, I'm just so happy. Got to meet two celebrities. I remember my dad when my dad was working in New York City. He actually got to say hi to Guy Fieri from the Food Network channel and everything. And it's like, oh, I'm so jealous. But now I can say like, hey, how many times can people say I met two celebrities in one day?
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome that you are able to just take advantage of those things, yielding to those opportunities, yielding to those good opportunities in your life and seeing where they lead you. Because the answer is we have no idea. There is such a beautiful power of being able to just lean into those opportunities. Like I've interviewed people and then found out about their book, or you find out about all this other stuff, or become really good friends. Like all this stuff is possible and can happen. Nothing is impossible when we start and lead with like connection and wanting to help out others. And that's something you're definitely doing with the book that you're co-authoring, with your podcast that you're doing. And I just admire your journey. Like you're just getting started, man. Keep it up. And what are some ways that we can get in touch with you?
Uh, the best way you can get in touch with me is by going to crazyfitnessguy.com. Between me and Crazy Fitness Guy, we have like 100 plus platforms. Uh, I probably should have stopped at like three, but when you find automation and some automation tools, I mean, by automation, I mean, I do all the, when I schedule them out, I take a look at them to see if like quality controls, so it's not completely automated, but I, the name of the game, you got to keep your social media profiles active or no one's going to find you. So I have a few other different automation tools, and then it just grew from there. And so I'm like, yeah, the best way is crazyfitnessguy.com. My profiles are there, Crazy Fitness Guy profiles there. And quick fun fact, the reason why I used to hide behind the brand name Crazy Fitness Guy, I mean, because I didn't know how far I wanted to share my story. I mean, like I didn't know what I wanted to do with it at the time. This was like that true beginning of Crazy Fitness Guy, and so I hid behind the brand name. And when I shared like an update with the followers about a milestone, no one commented on the post whatsoever. No one congratulated. But then when I stepped behind of Crazy Fitness Guy's shadow, so to speak, and when I shared the same exact thing, different hashtags, different way, people was like, "Oh, congratulations!" I was like, "Oh, now they care." So uh, that's why I did it that way. And then since Google already found all my profiles and everything years later, I was like, "There's no takebacks." I was like, I could delete them, but then because I attached it to all the other profiles on that I have, like, and uh, social media sections on like Facebook and other platforms. It's like so forth, and it's like, yeah, restrict stuff when you take away some stuff. It's easy, but not this one. So I was like, no takebacks. I'm keeping it.
That's good. Well, definitely am excited to hear more about your journey. And do you have any like last words of advice for anybody that maybe wants to turn their mess into a message or is struggling with a test of faith right now or anything like that?
Sure. Don't ever give up on your dreams because uh, a lot of people will tell you, oh, that's not possible to make money off of this. Well, you pretty much can make money off of anything these days. like there's people who are making like uh, I'm just I'm just gonna spit out a number. I don't know, but there's people who make full-time jobs off of YouTube. There's people who's making full-time money off of podcasting, live streaming. Uh, People have been pretty much making money off of influencing, etc. Now, there's some influencers who shouldn't be doing that because they're just doing it for the money and they didn't even try the product. I'm one of the influencers who actually tried the products, and if I absolutely love it, I'll share it. If I don't, I think it's a piece of crap. You know, I had this one influencer company who reached out to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to be part of our network?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe. Can you send me a product?" And then they said, "Sure, sure, sure." And then sent it to me. I kept my account, but guess what? I never shared it. So uh, I don't share stuff that I don't try or they won't at least give me. I'm not. I wasn't even asking them for like a big thing. I was asking for like a small little thing for me to try. Like it could have been like this little much. I could like let me try it. If I like it, I share it. And but they didn't budge. So I was like, "Yeah, your loss." And I was like, "Oh, you guys, a disposable email address." I was like, that I could literally delete in an instant. I don't use so. And but keep following your dreams. Don't listen to the naysayers because they will just tell you their own beliefs that they're dumping on you. And when stuff look like when stuff is not looking in your favor, make a vision board and look at all the stuff that you have accomplished. Like for instance, when let's just say my income over the years from the website and everything, when it basically became obsolete, I think that's the wrong word. I mean, when it was basically depleted and whatnot 2 years ago, I was I was feeling very bleak and everything, and I reminded myself, I was like, well, look how far I've come. How many people can say, "Hey, I've been in business for myself for 6 years. I had I've seen a lot of success. Maybe I'm not traffic wise, but I still have so many people who want to come on my show. I'm literally booked down until September of this year so far. So it's like people still want to come on my show. People still want to support me. I'm still a guest on other people's show. So gotta remind yourself of good things because just because one thing is depleted doesn't mean the other stuff is not depleted. Your energy might be, but then that's where you step back a little bit, take a break. Like this week, I'm actually taking a bunch of half breaks for my spring break, just because I'm not depleted. But I was like, hey, I'm not always gonna go get a spring break, so why can't I take advantage? And hey, I'm my own boss. I don't care what anybody else thinks.
That's cool. Well, you shared a lot of really good stuff, Jimmy. I appreciate you just coming on and sharing your story and just the little nuggets there of just following your dream and reminding yourself that there's no take backs, so go full after it and just yeah, do what you love, learn to love the process and accept things that maybe don't want to be accepted, but continue to move forward whatever that looks like. So I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have links to everything in the show notes. But yeah, just thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me.